Hey, it's Matt. Hope you're doing well. I was actually on my way to work out and I got a text from a friend of mine. Asked a really good question. It made me think back to the first professional that I hired to coach me. It was all the way back in 2002, and I blew my hamstring out in a church league softball game. Was trying to leg out an infield hit, and I'd had problems with my left hamstring for a while and just tore the whole thing off the bone. And I was at a gym, had been training there for a couple of years, and decided that when I finished rehab that I wanted to hire one of the trainers to work with me and help me really just build strength and flexibility in my legs. And so I kind of informally vetted all of the trainers that were there. And so for a few weeks while I was rehabbing, I just kind of would watch different trainers work with their clients. And, the things that I noticed were things that if you've been in a gym, you've noticed too. Sometimes trainers are kind of just not really paying attention to the people they're working with. They're talking to friends, they're checking out the ladies, they're doing whatever. But one of the trainers, actually one of the co-owners of the gym named Wade, one of the things that I liked about Wade, and I had talked to him a few times, just kind of informally, hey, how you doing kind of stuff. One of the things that I loved about Wade was the fact that when he was training somebody, he was just kind of locked in and focused on what he was doing with them. And so I decided that I wanted to work with Wade. And so I went into his office one morning and explained my situation, told him about my leg, told him I was rehabbing. But I said, after I'm done rehabbing, I would love to basically train with you once a week and have you kind of push me in my training, because I want to get great results, but I don't want to hurt myself. And so it was really kind of an interesting story. Wade was a brand new Christian. His life was really messy. Was a former professional bodybuilder. His marriage was struggling. And so we ended up kind of making a trade. He found out I was a pastor. And so essentially for a couple of years, Wade trained me once a week, working out my legs, and I discipled him. And it was really, it was a meaningful relationship and something that I really loved. But what was critical for me in that is the fact that Wade was exactly what I needed to get the results that I wanted. And the reason I bring that up is because the question that I got asked in the text message was, as a pastor, how do I know what I need in a coach? And I thought it was a great question because there's a lot of conversation out there in the church space about coaching. Church planner. Every church planner needs a coach. Every pastor needs a coach. But what isn't happening enough is a conversation about what kind of coach do you need. And a lot of that comes back to what kind of results do you want. And not just what kind of results do you want, because that's going to be different for different pastors, but what do you need in order to get those results? And so as a coach and as somebody who's been coached in a lot of different areas in life, because I value it, I think it's critically important, there are at least three things that I think you need to pay attention to. Three possible things that you might need primarily in order to get the results that you want as a pastor. The first thing that you might need is knowledge. The second thing that you might need is relationship. The third thing that you might need are skills. And so that's what I think you have to pay attention to. Do I primarily need knowledge, relationship, or skills in order to get the results that I want? Here's what I mean by that. Maybe you primarily need knowledge. You don't have the information that you need in order to get the results that you want. And so you're going to go find that information. You're going to get that information. Somebody's going to give it to you, formally or informally. Maybe you need relationships. We know that pastoring's lonely. We know that leadership can happen in isolation, and when it does, it's not a good thing. So maybe what you need primarily in a coach is somebody who can create relationship for you. Or maybe you need skills. Maybe you know plenty. Maybe you actually feel overwhelmed by all the information that you have, but you need a way to be able to focus. And so those things are all kind of interchangeable, but once you know what you need primarily, I think that helps you make a decision about the kind of coach that you need to work with. And so this is how this plays out and how I see it working out in the church space. If you primarily need knowledge in order to get the results that you want, then what you're really looking for is a mentor. A mentor is somebody, again, formally or informally, who has been down the road that you want to go, who has already done the thing that you want to do, and you're basically wanting to learn from them. And I had a friend of mine a couple of months ago. We were having a conversation. Pastors a large church, a couple of thousand people coming week in, week out. And I know he didn't have a coach. I said, look, I'm not angling for your business, but I'm really interested in why you don't have a coach. And he said, well, I mean, essentially, I'm looking for somebody who's already been where I want to go. And what he was saying is he was looking for a mentor. There's knowledge that he didn't have that he needed. There was information that he needed somebody to pass along to him. And again, you can do that informally. You can find somebody who has been where you want to go, who has done what you want to do, and ask them if they'll have coffee or lunch with you. See if you can get time on the phone with them. Exchange emails. And so there's nothing formal in place necessarily, but you're learning something from them, maybe in kind of a one-off conversation. That can be really valuable, particularly if there's something really critical that you need. That is coaching, but I think it's mentoring, and I think that's maybe a more helpful way to think through it. Maybe you need something that's a little bit more formal than that, and so you create a mentoring relationship with somebody as a coach where their primary role is to basically take what they know and to pass this down to you, to take information that you don't have and to make sure that you now have it. I see this happening in some group coaching environments. I see it in one-on-one space too. If you're a church planner, I'll give you one fantastic way to kind of go and find a really good mentor. Brian Howard with Context Coaching has a cohort that he does for church planners where he basically walks through 10 to 12 topics that are critical for you if you're going to do a great job starting a church, and he just passes on information that he's learned as a church planner, information that he's learned in leading multiple church planning networks. And so if you're a church planner, we'll link it up in the video below, and you go and make sure that you get some information about that cohort and being part of that with Brian. There are virtual mentors, blogs and podcasts. That's kind of mentoring, people taking information and passing it along to you. Now, the upside of mentoring is if you want good information, it's out there. We are not struggling because of a lack of information, and so if you go search for it, you can find it. The downside of mentoring is that in sharing best practices, one of the things that I'm seeing a lot, and increasingly as I pay attention to more and more things for me personally, for clients, just in general, is that for every best practice, there is a corresponding best practice that is the antithesis. These two things are almost completely dissonant from each other, but they're both working well for different people in different contexts. So the downside of mentoring is somebody might have information to pass down, but they may not have a framework for helping you translate it to make sure that it's in your context. So if you primarily need knowledge, formal, informal mentoring is a fantastic option, but just understand this, that it may not help you get that information all the way into the situation and circumstances in which you find yourself, all right? If you need relationships in order to get the results that you want, you don't need knowledge primarily, you need relationships, then this is where mastermind groups are really, really helpful. Mastermind groups, and this is a language that's used primarily in the marketplace, not so much in the church space, but a mastermind group is where you have two or more people who are collaborating information, knowledge, effort, working towards a common goal. And I think that there are some fantastic ways this happens. Leadership Network is essentially what is a fantastic resource, particularly if you are in a larger church. Leaders Collective, that's led by Elliot Grudem, is a fantastic mastermind group for church leaders. If you go to the Leaders Collective website, leaderscollective.com, and again, we'll link that up below as well, then you go look through the testimonials, and what you're going to see from pastor after pastor after pastor is them not talk primarily about, I'm getting the results that I want because of the knowledge or skills that I gained. It's because of the relationships. You'll hear, man, I was lonely and now I'm not. I don't feel like I'm in isolation anymore. I now know that there are people like me. I now have a group of pastors that are in the trenches with me and they're for me, and I know that. And that's extremely beneficial. The benefit of that is whether it's in decision making or just in the day-to-day reality of the unique role that you play as a pastor and a church leader, you have a group of people that you can connect with and know that they are going through the same things that you're going through. The downside to that kind of coaching is that you might have a particular set of skills that you need to acquire or information that you need to download that you may not be able to get in that environment because you don't have a mentor necessarily, or you need something different than that. So I think, again, it just goes back to what do you need primarily. If you feel like what you need are relationships, then I think mastermind groups are a fantastic way to go. The third way of thinking about coaching go something like this. If I primarily need skills, if I primarily need to take all the stuff I already know and to be able to focus and get good results, then I think performance coaching is a fantastic way for you to go. Performance coaching just simply says, we want to take the things you already know, help you get the focus that you need, and to take a very good step forward. I think there's a couple of ways to do this. I think there are a lot of coaches out there who do what I call passive performance coaching. Basically, their role is to create space in your life for them to ask good questions. You don't have enough people asking you good questions, and to help you get the answers and make the decisions that you need to make. I think that could be really, really helpful for a lot of us, particularly because we have plenty of information, we have plenty of knowledge. That's not our problem. It's not what we primarily need. We just need to put that into motion. I've adopted a slightly different framework where when I work with clients, I don't primarily come in with a bunch of knowledge. It isn't mentoring. I do want to bring my experience to the table, but what I want to do is primarily ask good questions. But they're questions that are framed through a process that says, why don't we just shrink the rest of our life down to the next 90 days? Let's set some good 90-day goals. Then let's figure out how we're going to reach those goals by creating an effective strategy, and let's pay attention to the execution of that strategy and see what we learn. And so what we're doing is essentially exactly what I did with Wade. I didn't need more information when I worked with Wade. I'd been training in a gym for a decade. I knew all the lifts. I had done all the lifts. I wasn't looking for relationship primarily. I got that. I actually gained a friend in Wade, but I didn't go into that relationship into that coaching because I needed relationship. I did that because Wade had a particular way of helping me take what I already knew about training my legs and pushing it to the nth degree without hurting myself. And so that's what we want to do when we work with somebody, and when you need somebody who can help you take all the things you know and put it into motion, you can acquire the skills that you need to get the results that you want, then performance coaching, I think, is really, really helpful. So that's really what you're looking at here, okay? If you primarily need information and knowledge, go find yourself a mentor. Again, Brian Howard with Context Coaching, if you're a church planner, is a great way to do that. Maybe you need relationship in order to get the results that you want. Check out Leaders Collective that Elliot Grudem's leading. It's a fantastic opportunity for you. If you're interested in basically taking that sense of overwhelm, that feeling like I already know so much and there's so much going on, there's so much coming at me, there's so much to do, if you're lacking the kind of clarity and confidence that you need to get the results that you want, I'd love to sit down and have a 30-minute phone call with you and just talk about what's going on in your life right now and where you want to go. And if it's a good fit, maybe we get a chance to work together. And I coach you the way that Wade coached me. Maybe that's not what you need right now. And I can help you find the resources that you need. Anything from an informal mentor, maybe somebody that I know from my experience working with church planning networks and having worked with hundreds of churches over the last several years. Maybe it's something like Leadership Network, where there's a particular niche that your church fits into and those guys can help you. That's my commitment to you, is essentially a conversation about helping you get the results that you want. Maybe that's working with me, maybe it's not, but you won't know until you schedule a phone call. So again, you'll see a link below this page where you can set up an absolutely free breakthrough call. We're going to help you get the results that you want by helping dial in whether you primarily need knowledge, information, relationships, or skills. So thanks so much for watching the video. Hope it's been helpful for you. Again, we'd love to do anything we can to help you. And I'm going to go get my workout in, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.